So now we continue in the Gongchik. Last time we met, we started on statement 23. Yes, so statement 23 of the first chapter, it says, if either one of these two is lacking, it is impossible to attain perfect awakening. These two being referring to the sutra division and the secret mantra division. These two types of great vehicle teachings. Yeah, so here it says, if either of these two are not there, if you don't practice one of these two, then perfect awakening is impossible. And then, of course, we also talked about how there are other statements in chapter 8 that need to be taken into consideration. And even there are other statements, I would say, in other chapters that need to be taken into consideration to more fully understand this. Quite clearly, this statement 23 is not to be read without also considering the other statements. Because here it seems to be making a very absolute statement. Like if any of these two are missing. So if you don't practice sutra, or more, the issue here is, if you don't practice secret mantra together with sutra, then you cannot achieve complete Buddhahood. As I said, here, rather than taking it as an absolute statement, as if the process of becoming Buddha is like filling in like paperwork, like those of us who have to do a lot of paperwork, and especially in places where, there's no flexibility at all, right? Maybe also there's corruption. That's the irony. No flexibility because there's corruption. So they want their paperwork, exactly, right? Even sometimes when it's so obvious, right? This particular piece of paperwork is not necessary. Or what is supposedly wrong, right? It's just a matter of like anyone who looks at it will go, oh, okay, yeah, I understand. That's not really wrong. Right? But there's a certain rigidity, right? That says, no, you have to redo this whole thing. Achieving Buddhahood is not like this. So it's not like there is a Saint Peter, at the gates of Buddhahood, checking your paperwork. Wait, you finished this, you did not finish this, sorry. You can't come in. It's not like that, right? Here, rather, I think when it emphasizes that both have to be practiced, it's really in the context of probably Kyopa Rinpoche hearing someone say, just practicing sutra is enough. No need to practice secret mantra. And in emphasizing that, generally speaking, the role of the sutra level teachings is to, or the sutra or the paramita or the vehicle or characteristics, right? All of them refer to the same set of teachings. Here, what Kyopa is emphasizing is that those teachings, those practices are for the removal of the coarse obscurations. Then the practices of the secret mantra are for the removal of the subtle obscurations. And so if you don't have the means to remove the coarse obscurations and the subtle obscurations, then obviously you will not become Buddha. But then elsewhere, right, other statements, for example, even within the first chapter, it says, in each of the category of the teachings, the other categories are complete within. Yeah, so technically you could say secret mantra belongs to the third turning of the wheel. Some even say secret mantra is a fourth turning. In some traditions, they even say there's a fourth turning. But if the secret mantra is the third turning, let's not have to say there's a fourth, let's say there's just third, right? Then there's statements that Kyoba make that says, even within the first turning of the wheel, the second and the third is, the contents of the second and third are already in the first. So we have to take that statement into consideration. There's another statement in chapter 8 that says, even by just practicing sutra, enlightenment is possible in one lifetime. Generally, most other Tibetan traditions will say, no, not possible. Enlightenment in one lifetime is only possible through the method of secret mantra. But Kyopa will make such a provocative statement that even just practicing sutra, enlightenment is possible within one lifetime. So all these statements, right, need to be read alongside this statement 23. Yeah. Now, without absolutizing statement 23, without absolutizing statement 23, we can still look at statement 23 and to see like what is being emphasized when it says in this statement 23 that these two, if any of them is lacking, perfect awakening is not possible. So Khenpo Kunpal's commentary, he says, in order to accomplish Buddhahood, one needs to mainly abandon the coarse and subtle factors. See? So he brings in, right? The particular role of sutra as the removal of coarse obstacles, and the practice of secret mantra remove the subtle. So he says, in order to accomplish Buddhahood, one needs to mainly abandon or eliminate the coarse and subtle factors, which are to be discarded gradually through the vehicles of sutra and mantra. Gradually means sequentially, right? As we have seen earlier, gradual does not have to automatically mean slow. It just means sequentially. So sequentially, normally speaking, first the coarse obscurations are removed, then the subtle obscurations are removed. Again, elsewhere there's another statement that says sometimes it is possible to remove the subtle obscurations directly without having completely removed the coarse obscurations. The subtle can be removed first. So again, we cannot take one statement without considering what the other statements are saying. So anyway, here, they are to be discarded sequentially through the vehicles of sutra and mantra. Thus, these two are not contradictory. So that is the main point that is being emphasized in this statement. When it says you need both, the point here is that they are not contradictory. There were people during Kyopa Rinpoche's time, believe it or not, they were in a minority. There were some who said, no. Sutra and mantra, they are not compatible. So, and then they will say, only practice sutra. This mantra thing is a little suspicious. Understandably, because, some of the things in the secret mantra tradition, if you don't have proper guidance, you look at it, you say, what? How can it say this, So there was a minority tradition during Kyopa's time that say, no, just practice sutra. That mantra thing, it's something dangerous. Likewise, there were some, probably more in the majority, that will say, oh, just practice mantra. No need sutra. In fact, once you have mantra, once you have secret mantra, it surpasses sutra. You don't need to worry about sutra anymore. It's irrelevant. That means this is the idea that you have graduated from sutra. So this position Khenpo definitely will not accept either. Yeah? So thus these two are not contradictory. Moreover, the qualities of the lower are incorporated in the higher. So here he is saying the qualities of the lower, that means in this case, the sutra, are incorporated in the higher. Now here we have to further explain this, Now I don't know exactly what Khenpo Kunpal wants to say here, because there is one nuance in talking about how the higher is related to the lower. One particular way of thinking or talking about the relationship is they say, when you start practicing the higher, meaning the secret mantra, automatically the lower is included. Therefore, you don't need to worry about the lower. That's one way that the lower is incorporated in the higher. Khenpo Rinpoche, I would say, would not say it that way, because to him, that is dangerous. Because you might think, oh, it has surpassed the lower. Incorporated in that sense. It has surpassed the lower. So that what used to apply in the lower, the do's and the don'ts, in the upper, they don't necessarily apply anymore. And in fact, there are people today in different Buddhist traditions, not just in Tibetan, but in different Buddhist traditions, that have this idea of when you have gone higher, those things in the lower may or may not apply anymore. Khenpo would say, no, this is wrong view. Instead, how Khenpo expresses it is more along the lines of how through the lower, what was initially lower, it evolves higher and higher and higher. It evolves. So it's a process of maturing. It's not about superseding. It's maturing upwards. It's transforming upwards. And this is actually an important difference. Maturing upwards or evolving upwards means that which is in the beginning doesn't get discarded, but it begins to mature. One example. What does this mean? So actually in the next statement, when talking about the vows, Khenpo Kunpal's explanation actually gives it there. But I'll give another example. First, Atisha said, Lord Atisha, he says, when I was training mainly in the individual liberation vows, and by that he meant like his monk's vows, the 250. He says, at every fortnight confession and purification of vows, which is a monastic practice done twice a month, every 2 weeks. All the monks living in the same place have to gather together and renew their vows and confess, the breaking of vows. He says every every fortnight gathering, I find that I have broken this or that vow that I have to repair, that I have to renew. Then he says, then later, when I began to train, to add onto that, the Bodhisattva training, It says, every 24-hour period, I find that I have damaged some of my bodhisattva vows. So 2 weeks, I found that I have damaged. Now, 24 hours. Because in the bodhisattva vows, it says, within 24 hours, you should repair. If you don't repair, it will destroy your bodhisattva vow. Then he says, and then when I was initiated into the mandala and took empowerment, I found that like almost every moment I'm breaking my samaya vows. So often this story is told to emphasize that these 3 sets of vows, they become more and more rigorous, more and more strict. It's funny, so often we hear people say, oh, no, monastic vows, I cannot take. Those are so strict. Bodhisattva vow, oh yes, I like it, I will take. Ooh, save all beings. Oh, Vajrayana vows, oh yes, everything is pure, everything is one, everything is divine. Oh yes, that I love even more, And from Atisha's, perspective, you have no idea what you're talking about. But I don't want to. This interpretation is not to scare you, not to intimidate you, so that you say, "Oh no, I'm not taking the Bodhisattva vow. I'm not taking Vajrayana." Yeah. Another, I think, the view that is more related to what's emphasized here, this way of Atisha talking about this changing, he's showing how we become more and more sensitized. We become more and more mindful and aware as we evolve. And so that given the more general do's and don'ts, the more obvious do's and don'ts of the individual liberation vows, it can feel like, oh, yeah, I can go 2 weeks without really breaking any of these vows. But then, when you get to the second level, the Bodhisattva training, your mindfulness, your awareness have been more fine-tuned. So that you become more aware, like, oh, wow, actually, within just 24 hours, there's a whole bunch of non-virtues. There's a whole bunch of causes of suffering that has been created. Then, when it comes to the secret mantra commitments, the samaya, there it's even more, right? You become even more alert and aware to, oh, actually, every moment I've given way to, I've succumbed, right, so to say, to the poisons. Yeah? So this is how it evolves. It's not like, oh, I'm at the secret mantra level. I can do whatever I want now. This is especially easy to have this misunderstanding. Yeah? It's especially easy to have this misunderstanding when you read, like the kind of like controversial or exciting stories about Mahasiddhas and how they behave and how they, you can then, get confused and think, oh, now anything I can do. It's not like that, Not like that. So here it says, so here, when he says, the qualities of the lower are incorporated in the higher, here we should not read this as saying, somehow when it's higher, all the lower are automatically there. They're not automatically there. You have to make sure that they are there. Because there is a way to misunderstand this and think, oh, superficially, you think, oh, now I'm chanting mantras, I'm doing visualization as deity. Oh, then automatically, 10 non-virtues, no more a problem, because I'm now practicing in a higher level. Not like that, okay? Anyway, continuing, he says, through merely the path where either one of them is lacking, it is impossible to attain the perfect great awakening. Therefore, Jigten Sumgön taught that one has to accomplish Buddhahood by practicing sutra and mantra vehicles without contradiction. Meaning you practice them, without thinking that, oh, this contradicts this, and therefore I will, because this is higher, therefore I will do this and I can ignore this. Which is actually, no tradition of Tibetan Buddhism right now will say, oh, you can do bad things. No, of course not, But it's nonetheless common to find those who are not so informed by Gyalpa Rinpoche's views to be a little bit more, I would say, daring in saying things like, oh, the higher supersedes the lower. Statements like this. Or once you understand emptiness, then karma has no more relevance to you. Oh, Gyalpa will say, not like that. Statement 24. Statement 24, it says, the three sets of vows have a single vital point in abandoning the 10 non-virtues. So this is one of those famous statements. Even outside of Drigong, people know, Gyalpa, the Drigong tradition always emphasized this. Meaning the individual liberation vows, the bodhisattva vows, the secret mantra samayas, they all have a single key point, which is to eliminate, to abandon the 10 non-virtues. To eliminate, to abandon the 10 non-virtues. Recently, in editing this teaching by Gyalpa Rinpoche called Chintamani, the wish-fulfilling jewel, I've been thinking more and more about this word abandon, translated as abandon in English, has become very common in Tibetan Buddhist translations. The original Tibetan is to pongpa, and often is translated as abandon. I have now started to wonder more about, at least in English, I don't know in Spanish what the word is, but in English the word abandon, I'm starting to feel is a little awkward. It doesn't really communicate. Usually in English we say abandon. We are things like, you have been abandoned, like someone has, dropped you. Yeah, so in that sense, yes, you abandon the 10 non-virtues, as in you drop them, But I feel that there's a stronger sense than just abandon. It's really to eliminate. It's gone. So anyway, abandon, eliminate. So the single vital point in all three sets of vows is to eliminate the 10 non-virtues. So now, let's look at Khenpo Kunpal's commentary. The Buddha taught that in the 3 sets of vows, those of individual liberation, bodhisattvas, and secret mantra, one has to abandon the 10 non-virtues of body, speech, and mind. And he did not teach that one can practice them. So he did not teach, that you can practice any of the 10 non-virtues because you are on a higher level, So what are the 10 non-virtues? This is really important, okay? Especially if you feel a connection to the Drigong tradition, you need to know 10 non-virtues. So much that if it's in a dream, you will even remember the 10 non-virtues. If someone suddenly, runs up to you and in the middle of the night, and you don't expect this person and you are shocked, but then this person runs up to you, scares you, you're shocked, and then the person says, what are the 10 non-virtues? You should be able to tell them what are the 10 non-virtues, because they are the main thing to be eliminated in your Dharma practice, right? And if you don't know what they are, how in the world are you going to practice Dharma when the practice of the Dharma is to eliminate the 10 non-virtues? Killing, stealing, killing, stealing, and sexual misconduct. 3 of the body. 4 of speech. 4 of speech. Deceptive speech, meaning lying. Destructive speech, meaning speech that is harmful. And so deceptive, destructive, right? Divisive speech, speech that pits one against the other, to sow discord, to create disharmony. And then distracted speech, which is normally translated as idle talk or gossip. But gossip and idle talk, they don't communicate also that well. Distracted speech, speech that is just blah, 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 blah. Talking without thinking, and chattering away. These are 4 of the speech. 3 of the mind, ill will, wanting to hurt, wanting to harm others. Coveting mind, you want other people's things. And the 3rd, wrong views. Particularly wrong view, the most dangerous of wrong views is denying causality, or having a perverted view of causality. What is a perverted view of causality? Oh, by harming and killing, I can achieve my happiness. That's one. Denying causality. Oh, there's no such thing. Yes, there is gravity. Yes, there is like physical force, laws of physical force, but there's no moral force in this world. Do whatever you need to do. If you can get away with it, congratulations. Those are denying causality. So these are the 10, Now, for each of the 10, there are more and more subtle levels of practicing them, for sure. And so we have to start with, at the very least, the surface level, the most basic. Then there are more and more subtle levels. So next, Khenpo Kunpal will give an example. He says, take the example of sexual misconduct. In the Vinaya, it is the loss of a vow. So if you engage in any, he doesn't go into details here, but his audience, who he's writing for, understands what he's saying. Yeah. So in the Vinaya, it is the loss of a vow. If you engage in sexual activity and you have the monastic vow, then you have lost the vow. Yeah. In the Bodhisattva teachings, it is also something to be abandoned. Because it is considered a breaking of your Bodhisattva vow. If you harm others, right? By betraying trust, by betraying trust, by taking advantage of others, by objectifying others, right? Then, and in the secret mantra, it is taught as a root downfall to eject the jasmine flower. This is code word. That means to release any of the sexual reproductive fluids is considered breaking a tantric samaya, actually. Yeah, because the control of your vital energies is something to be avoided and to be overcome. So he says, actually, in Khenpo Kunpal points out, and Jigdan Sumgun will say, all the trainings of like inner heat, like Tummo, and all the other kind of higher yogas of the secret mantra, they are all so that you withhold your vital energies and they do not flow out. He says, Buddha already taught that when he gave the monks' vows and nuns' vow of celibacy. For lay people, yes, the Buddha did not explicitly say celibacy. There he gives the more basic principle of do not misuse sexuality, that it will harm yourself and harm others. But there already, in giving full protection, so to say, to the monastics, it's not because the Buddha, wants to torture the monastics and say, you? Absolutely no. But in giving the monastics this vow, he's preparing them for ability to train in secret mantra more effectively. So if you instead habituate, sexual activity, no issue. So the worst of that would be you actually use that to harm others, to take advantage of others. There, Buddha used that as the most basic rule there in the lay vows. No, please don't do that. Then a tighter rule in the Bodhisattva is to say, can you see that all beings, can you relate to all of them as, your father and mother? So then in the context of sexual desire, it's like, then you abstain. But then on the secret mantra level, you then now begin to work with. So the first two, yes, it's just, you could say, varying degrees of practicing restraint. In the third set, in the secret mantra, you then, if you receive the proper teachings, you are then taught how to transmute, to redirect that. Yeah, so this is the example he gives, Again, primarily, he's writing for a monastic audience. So this is his reminder to them, hey, don't you think, oh, I'm now secret mantra, then I can do things that if I was just an ordinary monk and nun, I cannot do. Now he says here, Khenpo Kunpal, no. Please remember, thus it is a single vital point in being something that must be abandoned in all three sets of vows. And it is likewise with all the non-virtues, such as killing and so forth. Moreover, it is said in the great Vairochana Actualized Awakening Tantra, quoting a Tantra, this Tantra is a Yoga Tantra. Remember the 4 levels of Tantra? Action, performance, yoga, unexcelled yoga. So this quote is from a Yoga Tantra. The Lord of Secrets asked the Exalted One, asked the Buddha, what are the pledges of secret mantra? Buddha replied, they are to abandon the 10 non-virtues. Then Vajrapani asked again, and the Lord of Secrets is referring to Vajrapani. Then Vajrapani asked again, if these are also abandoned by the vehicle of characteristics, i.e. Sutrayana, by self-realized Buddhas, solitary realizers, and by the hearers, the listeners, and non-Buddhists, why is it that the abandonment of the 10 non-virtues is also a pledge of the secret mantra? So Vajrapani is basically saying, well, if even on those other levels, it's already a vow, a training, even among non-Buddhists, they have this. What's so special that about secret mantra then? Then the Buddha replied, although they are the same in abandoning the 10 non-virtues, the pledges and the vows are different in terms of the different motivations and aims behind them. Again, then, at the individual liberation vows, you abandon the non-virtues primarily because of you yourself are afraid of the consequences of the non-virtues. Second, on the bodhisattva training level, it's still abandoning the 10 non-virtues, but now it's done because you know that the 10 non-virtues harms yourself and, more importantly, harms your mothers, all sentient beings. Now, you don't. Now you are eliminating the 10 non-virtues because it harms mothers. And because of our love and care for all beings, we don't engage in the 10 non-virtues. Then, at the secret mantra level, the motivation is, what is the motivation? The motivation now, or the understanding now, is the 10 non-virtues are, completely the opposite of the way things are. They're against, so to say, the basic nature of things. So we abandon them, we eliminate them. Because they are part of the causes and effects of suffering. So it's like the most essential level is that they are against the nature of things. And so we eliminate them. So he says the motivations and the pledges and the vows are different. So you could also abstain from the 10 non-virtues from a worldly perspective. Meaning, when I practice the 10 non-virtues, I can get worldly benefits. Not a bad thing, but it's just a limited motivation. Worldly benefits as in, People like people who don't kill. People like people who don't steal. People like people who don't commit sexual misconduct. I want to be an upstanding neighbor so that all the neighbors will know, I'm a good person. All my co-workers will know I'm a good person. All my relatives will know I'm a good person. That's a worldly reason to keep the 10 non-virtues. So this is the point, the commentary. Yeah. So any questions, comments about 23 and 24? No? Okay. Good.